Welcome to Sravz Technical Series. In today's session, we'll discuss profit model analysis. So this is our process flow diagram, and we started with the time series analysis, then we did time series stationarity check, discussed covariance analysis, principal component analysis. In the last video, the principal component analysis, we discussed the usage of risk as a metric to check if all the assets in a portfolio contribute to the risk, and if certain assets do not contribute to the risk, then it's worth remove them from the portfolio because no risk, no reward. So today we'll discuss the profit model analysis, and using profit model analysis we can do a prediction of the future stock price. So this is the profit model analysis page, and if you look here, we are doing prediction of the future stock price. So this is the documentation page. So before we go through the model, I'll go through the references. Profit model was developed by Facebook, and they made it open source. And this discussion is based on Towards Data Science page written by Will Corson. So the discussion is completely based on this page. In Sravz system, we used the discussion here to broaden it to be run on all the assets that Sravz supports, the individual assets and the portfolios. So to go to the profit model analysis page, you click on the hamburger bar, then the routine analytics section, then profit model analysis is here. So click on profit model analysis, and then it displays all the assets supported by Sravz system. In our case, we have around 50,000 assets. I filtered it by NVIDIA so that we can discuss NVIDIA stock today. So once you click on a asset like this, you should see a bunch of tabs displayed here, which perform the profit model analysis. And the last tab will show the predicted future price. So today is 9th September 2023, and NVIDIA stock price is around 439. So it's not exactly at 439, but since it's a prediction, it starts around that price. And since this is a prediction, it doesn't give you the exact stock price. It only gives you a prediction, so you can use this to check the expected trend into the future. And also it gives a confidence interval of 80%. So within this 80% confidence interval, the stock price is here. So it could swing anywhere between these two extremes as the time progresses. So that's about the NVIDIA stock prediction. I'll go back to the documentation page. So this is the use case once again to predict the future asset prices, and we can tune the model based on weightage. So at a high level, profit model analysis works by giving weightage to the past in a sequential manner. It gives more weightage to the latest history, little weightage to the history before that, and then least weightage to the history way back. So that way you can give more weightage to the recent events. So because you can shift your weights on the history, your future prediction takes weightage on recent events. So it's a little bit better than a pure time series analysis, where in time series analysis you give equal weightage to the complete history. So we'll go through the profit model description. So in the profit model analysis, like I mentioned, it displays the asset prices 90 days into the future. Price prediction confidence interval is set to 80%. Confidence interval widens out into the future because future is more uncertain. So if I open this page, so it starts here and then it goes out as the future. We will go through the profit model prediction evaluation tab, which is displayed here, profit model prediction evaluation. So profit model analysis is a supervised learning model. It is based on train set and test data. So we divide the uh, given data into training data. In the training data, we tune the model, and with the test data, we test the model to check if the model is overfitted or underfitted. Overfitting means if the prediction is too close to the price, then it is overfitting. Underfitting means we see some flexibility where the actual price moves away from the predicted model. So we'll go back to the graph. So for NVIDIA, we have this much data from for 10 years. So September '08 to September '08, 2023 is the today's date, and 10 years back, 2022. We use the data from year till year for training the model, and then after the red line, we tested the data. We tested the model. So the model has not performed well because if you see here, the model predicted the price to fall because the recent trend was downwards. But at around this time, we got the AI mania, you could say. So all the chip stocks have gone up due to AI frenzy. So the actual price has gone up, but the model has predicted that it should go down. So the model has not kept so well. It has not kept so well with the actual price. So this is an art. So we have to update the change point prior CPS 0.05. This is called a change point prior. It's a parameter so that we can make the model a little better. So we'll go to the change point prior analysis next. Next, we will discuss the Prophet model change point prior analysis tab. So as I mentioned previously, change point prior is a parameter in a Prophet model through which you can let the model know how much importance you want to give to the trends in the data. If you take a lower change point, so we have change point prior at these points. If you take a lower change point, that means you do not want to give a high value to the trends in the data. If you take higher change point, you want to give more value to the trends in the data. So this the higher is better if you have a very highly volatile stock. So you want to stick very closely to the stock. If the stock is more traded on fundamentals, then you can use a lower change point. So for example, in case of NVIDIA, if you look here, NVIDIA was, if you take a lower change point, the blue graph is here. The predicted values are there. So the blue graph has never kept close to the actual values, which are the black dots. So the actual values went like this. The blue graph went way away from the actual values. So if you use a lower change point, you give lower value to the trend. So it has been almost stable. So the lower change point would be better for those stocks which trade mostly on the fundamentals, but not due to the news like NVIDIA case where it was due to the AI frenzy. Now, as we increase the change point, so for example, point 2, which is the yellow graph kept close to the actual values. Since we were giving high value to the trend, and NVIDIA is a very trendy stock because it is driven by news, the I change point, it has kept close to the actual stock price. So with this table, we can see that The higher the change point, we overfit the model and it stays close to the actual values. If we use a lower change point, we are doing underfitting of the model. So the actual values are far away from the predicted values. So that's what we discussed here. The change point prior analysis of this one, change point has direct relation to fitting. Lower change point could result in underfitting. Higher change point could result in overfitting. In Shrav's case, we set the change point to 0.05, which doesn't work for NVIDIA because at 0.05, the red line, the red is here. It has worked somewhat, but not that close with respect to the yellow plot. Yellow plot is here, the red one is there. So if we go back to the model evaluation, so it's an art. So either from 0.05 to 0.2, any of this is better, but the higher price scale would be better for NVIDIA. So to analyze the change point prior, which change point to use off of these, looking at this graph isn't that clear. So we can do more easily through another plot called change point prior validation. For example, this one. So the change point prior validation plots display error or uncertainty versus change point scale. So for example, change point has to be selected which error uncertainty is the lowest. Efficiency table displays the impact on change point on MSE, mean square error. Mean square error is calculated with this formula. So for example, in NVIDIA's case, if you look at the train error and the test error, in the train error, this is the error. We have to reduce the error. And this is change point prior scale, CPS. As we increase the change point to 0.2, the error has come down on the train error, on the training data. Similarly, on the test data, it has come down. Initially, it went up and then it has come down. So for NVIDIA, I think the best value would be 0.2. In our graphs, we use 0.5. So here, even though 0.05 shows that it has followed the actual stock price, the yellow graph is much better, has tracked the stock price much better. So I think probably the stock would take this path than the red path. So maybe in the future returns are much lower as shown by the yellow graph than the red graph. So it's an art. We have to pick the correct change point based on this plot. Here we picked a change point of 0.5, which is not the correct change point. We should have picked 0.2. So if you look at the prediction into the future, the observations have taken this path. The observations have taken this path, and our prediction has taken this path, 0.5 scale. These are the observations. So that's about the model updated with 0.5 and re-evaluated at the change points. So it's not a perfect prediction at 0.5. We'll go to the prediction on the confidence interval scale. So into the future, the stock is expected to still upward trend with this wide confidence interval. So it can either go this way or it can fall to this point. So profit model doesn't give you an exact value, but at least using the model, you can check the trend the stock is expected to take into the future. So next I'll go to the code base. The code base for the Prophet model analysis is in the IPython notebook, and the IPython notebook has the analysis for gold futures. So as I mentioned in the session, we do we break the data into training data and the test data. So in our case, we have used training data of 3 years, number of years to train data, 3 years, and then the rest 7 years we took it for testing. So number of years of data we used is 10 years. So the code base is in IPython notebook. In a subsequent session, I'll go through this code base. In the meantime, you could go over the code base, and if you have any questions, you could reach me out either in the YouTube channel or in the